Hello, and welcome back to the Tales Along El Camino Sierra. Our apologies for not being able to get a new YouTube episode out for a few weeks now. We have been very busy putting book 3 together in the Tales Along El Camino series, which we plan to have out early summer 2020. We appreciate you joining us now for this episode. It's on Father John Crowley, one of our favorite Eastern Sierra personalities. If you enjoy our channel, we really appreciate if you would subscribe as well as share it with others you think may enjoy it. Thank you again, and we hope you enjoy this tale.
This episode of Eastern Sierra History is The Extraordinary Father John Crowley. Seems only fitting that a land of such grand scale as the Eastern Sierra draws men and women of equal stature. Father John Crowley, the Desert Padre as many called him, stood as a giant of a man among all who knew him. Born in Ireland in 1891, Crowley's family immigrated to Worcester, Massachusetts in 1903. Crowley entered the College of the Holy Cross in 1911 and became an active participant in college life, contributing stories, essays, and poems to the college student newspaper, and served as the journal's editor-in-chief during his senior year. This literary flair would stay with him throughout his life. Father Crowley came from a very Catholic family. The 3 boys in his family all became Catholic priests, and the 3 girls all became Catholic nuns. After graduation, he entered the seminary in Baltimore, Maryland, but he always wanted to head west, and shortly thereafter he borrowed $50 from the bishop to purchase a train ticket to Los Angeles, where he wanted to try his luck there. He served briefly in 2 Southern California parishes before the Archbishop asked for a volunteer to become the priest for California's desert region. Father Crowley immediately stepped forward, and in 1919 he became the priest, the only priest, for all of Mono and Inyo counties and a large part of Kern and San Bernardino counties as well. His initial parish covered 30,000 square miles, an area equal in size to all of Ireland. His northernmost church was in Bishop, 200 miles from its southern counterpart in Barstow, and in those years, this remote area had few paved roads. Driving between his scattered parish meant bouncing over gravel and sand. The parish contained both the lowest spot in the United States at Death Valley and the highest at Mount Whitney. In his first 16 months, Father Crowley put on over 50,000 miles on his old Model T Ford. Adapting quickly to his new environment, he took out all but the driver's seat of his car and often slept in the back on overnight stays as he traveled to serve his widespread congregation. Father Crowley reflected, "Many a hotel bill has been saved while I snored beneath the stars." His preferred dress would become his trademark: riding boots, khaki riding pants, and a khaki shirt under which he wore his clerical collar. About his parish, Father Crowley said, "With such an expanse of territory, it was out of the question to try and establish a headquarters, and thus I gained the enviable reputation of being an ecclesiastical tramp." Crowley spent 5 years in his desert region parish before being transferred to Fresno St. John's Cathedral in 1924. During this time, Father Crowley was instrumental in starting the St. Columba's High School there. He also started to refine his skills in promotion and marketing, having arranged for none other than Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig to appear in an exhibition baseball game in Fresno as part of a major fundraiser for the Archdiocese. He faithfully served the parishioners of the Raisin Capital for the next 10 years. But all the while, Crowley kept the memory of his time in the desert close at hand. In 1934, Father Crowley returned to his beloved desert region to be its cleric once more. Upon his return, Father Crowley was shocked by what he saw. After 20 years of water diversions by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the economic situation in the Eastern Sierra looked dismal. Many businesses had closed, many people had moved away, and the outlook for those that had remained was very bleak. Father Crowley believed his calling led him beyond just the spreading of the word of the gospel. Alarmed by the prevailing mood of nearly utter despair exhibited by many in the Eastern Sierra at that time, Father Crowley felt their economic well-being needed to be tended to as well as their spiritual needs. Father Crowley thought he might use his skills to lead his flock to the Promised Land on an economy based upon tourism. By the 1930s, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had purchased most of the private land in the Owens Valley, along with its water rights, and there was very little land left to develop. But the mountains loomed large, the creeks ran swift, at least until they reached the aqueduct, and the scenery was unmatched. Father Crowley felt tourism was the Eastern Sierra's salvation, and moreover, he would be the one to bring it. For the next 6 years, Father Crowley promoted the beauty and attractions of the Eastern Sierra as vigorously as a Barnum and Bailey huckster. His unabashed popularization of the area's scenic and natural attractions aroused a fervor among all who heard him. His success at marketing and promotion became something of a legend. He made it his business to get to know every man, woman, and child in the Owens Valley, whether they were his parishioners or not. As writer Irving Stone pointed out in a famous Saturday Evening Post article, Father Crowley worked constantly for religious tolerance. Protestants forgave him for being a Catholic, and the Catholics forgave him for having so many Protestant friends. Somewhere along the line, the Padre became the Padre, an understanding father to whom the frightened, the weary, and the confused could come for comfort and help, no matter their chosen faith. Father Crowley worked non-stop to come up with ideas to promote the region as the place to come and visit. He convinced the Inyo County Board of Supervisors to declare the opening day of fishing season a county holiday, and then held a blessing of the fishing tackle midnight mass the day before the fishing opener. Local and visitors alike lined up to have their tackle receive a proper consecration. Father Crowley was an avid outdoorsman himself. As another publicity-generating event, Father Crowley hiked to the top of Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the lower 48 states, and once there, held what was the first and only Catholic Mass on its summit. The unique service was widely reported in the newspapers and magazines. He also saw the potential of looking at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power as a partner rather than an adversary. Along with influential Big Pine rancher and businessman Ralph Merritt, Father Crowley brought together community members from Inyo and Mono County, as well as city officials and business persons from Los Angeles, to form Inyo Associates in 1937. The organization, which is still in existence today, had its primary goal to have all parties involved work together to help Inyo and Mono counties develop a stable and salutary economy. The good Padre started a tongue-in-cheek publication called The Sage and Tumbleweed under the pen name Inyokel. The byline on his little publication said, "Some facts about the top of the United States Mount Whitney and the bottom, Death Valley, and what lies in between." Father Crowley continued his tireless promotion of tourism in the Eastern Sierra. Also in 1937, he sold community members from Bishop to Death Valley on the idea of putting together a huge event to celebrate the opening of a new state highway that was coming from Lone Pine to Death Valley. Father Crowley's idea was to move a gourd filled with water from Lake Tula Inyo, located below the lower 48's highest peak at Mount Whitney, to Badwater in Death Valley, the lowest spot in the Northern Hemisphere. Father Crowley organized, planned, and executed the incredible 3-day event, which included the presence of Hopalong Cassidy, the Los Angeles City Police Band, and the Governor of California. It even included the participation of President Franklin Roosevelt by telegraph. The event was to be called the Wedding of the Waters. The event was a huge success. Not only was it attended by thousands of people, it was covered by newspapers as far away as New York and Boston. Despite the enormous amount of time and energy Father Crowley spent on his many civic activities, he never forsaked his devotion to his church. He was the chaplain for the CCC camps when they arrived in the Owens Valley in the early 1930s. Father Crowley often conducted Catholic Mass in 4 different towns and 2 different CCC camps during a 20-hour period over the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Even though Father Crowley loved all of the geographic area that he served, Death Valley held a special place in the Padres' heart. Working with the National Park Service, the Catholic Diocese in Fresno, and the Pacific Coast Borax Company, Father Crowley obtained a commitment by all parties to build a chapel on a small mesa near Furnace Creek in Death Valley. An architect had even completed plans to build the church. Sadly, in 1940, while driving through the desert near Inyo, Kern, Crowley struck a wayward steer. Father Crowley lost his life on the magical highway that led so many people to the land that he so loved. There was no one with the drive and energy of the good Padre to continue with his ambitious project, and the Death Valley Chapel was never built. But the blessings of Father John Crowley's tireless efforts to bring a better life to all he knew are still very much a part of life today, and will live on forever here along El Camino Sierra.
Amazing man, Father John Crowley. Thank you again for tuning in. Our hope is to have more episodes in the near future, and we hope to see you back here again soon. In the meantime, we hope you always enjoy the tales you create from your own travels along El Camino Sierra.